What's up, YouTube? This is Ken, bringing you an Atlas strategy video for the upcoming 3.24 Necropolis League. Been a while since I made one of these, but they are completely shaking up the endgame and kind of how map sustain works, the Atlas passive tree, and all of that. And so there's a lot of topics I want to cover. This video will basically go over one, why I think map sustain is going to be harder, two, what are some of the nodes that we can click to kind of get around that, and then three, how I'm actually going about it in terms of my Atlas passive trees. If you prefer your information in written form, I will have a link in the description that gets to this Atlas notes document that I have. It's more aimed at newer players. It kind of gives you step by step. This is how you complete your Atlas. I give you tips like, hey, you can use Orb of Bindings instead of Orbs of Alchemy because you're going to need those alks to buy maps from Kirak. So, those are that's kind of what this document is. But let's go ahead and just hop right into it. So, number one, why is map sustain going to be a little bit harder in this upcoming league? And that's basically they got rid of Wandering Path and they got rid of a ton of travel nodes that used to say map drops have a chance to be duplicated in conjunction with Wandering Path. That was very powerful. And they also got rid of this adjacent map drop chance. You used to be able to push it all the way up to 100% with Wandering Path. These 2% became 4%. Now you can get up to 68%, I believe. I'll talk a little bit later about why it may not be useful to kind of like jack up your tree and go out of the way to get some of these. But yeah, these are big changes to the Atlas passive tree. Sustain just in general is going to be worse. I believe there was also a map wheel above here that used to be, similar to the shaping of the mountains and the skies. There used to be another one up here that gave you even more map sustain. You're not getting any of that anymore. So big changes to the Atlas passive tree. That's kind of the big one that's going to affect map sustain. But also coming down from Affliction. Affliction was just wild in terms of increased item quantity. Um, this new mechanic Necropolis looks like it's almost exclusively a crafting mechanic, and so we haven't really seen anything like this in a very long time, where it doesn't add a lot of raw monsters to your maps. In fact, this one's actually just replacing monsters, and you can kind of move around the rewards and stuff like that. But by the way, we haven't seen any map rewards as one of the rewards that you can move around. Maybe there will be some, but from what we've seen so far, I think maybe a unique map or something. Anyways, yeah, not adding monsters to the map from the mechanic can be quite tough. This kind of reminds me of like Lake of Calandra, where you were like building a lake, and the only thing you got in your map was this like little tablet that you could click, and until you actually ran the tablet, could you realize the monsters and the maps, from there. And I remember map sustain being a little bit difficult for some players in that league. Um, I guess the most recent league mechanic that didn't have monsters would be uh, Trial of the Ancestors. Toto was kind of a special league. Sanctum came back in that league, so it was kind of like people had a reason to not be in maps. And remember back then, we also still had Wandering Path and all the stuff I just talked about. Um, but yeah, anyways, map sustain I think is going to be extremely more challenging because this mechanic, you don't get that lake at the end. You don't get it's just crafting at the end. So I don't know if there's going to be that kind of juice at the end that's going to give you more monsters and or a big loot explosion of maps. The other thing that's kind of flying under the radar is that they are removing these Arc Nemesis loot explosions um, that gave you white sockets, gave you gem exp, whatever. They're keeping the map one in the game, but this line, it's kind of a throwaway line at the beginning of this, but it says rare monster item bonus mechanics are now rarer. So what does that mean? Like it's GGG here, so it could mean that it's going to be extremely rare. But if you experienced it in previous leagues, you would kill a rare monster, and it would explode with like 10 or 20 maps. In Affliction, it'd be like a whole screen full of maps or whatever. That's going to happen a lot more rare, according to their language here. Um, so you're not going to get that shot to the arm of more maps that you would occasionally get. It was already rare back then, but it'll be even more rare now with this language. So the combination of these kind of three things, kind of reducing the ArcNem map loot explosions, reducing the Atlas passive tree, and then the mechanic itself just not giving that many monsters, we're going to have problems with map sustain. So here's what I'm calling kind of the essentials for map sustain. And it's a very simple tree that focuses on these, shaping of the mountains, shaping of the skies, and then shaping of the world. These three map clusters right here, they give you a chance to increase your current map tier +1. And so when sustain is all about seeing the maps that you want to see more frequently. I'll just quickly kind of remind you guys how map drops work. If I'm in like a tier 5 map, every normal monster in that map can drop a tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But let's say the game decides it's going to drop me a tier 3. Well, it has a chance to upgrade it to a tier 4. It could upgrade my tier 4 to a tier 5. It can't, from a normal monster, upgrade a tier 5 to a tier 6. If it was a rare or magical monster, it could drop your current map tier +1. So if I was in a 5, it could drop me up to a 6. And unique monsters can drop up to your current map tier +2. And why that's important is I think there is a keystone that's kind of flying under the radar here, and it is destructive play. So the most important line on this one, it's adding more map bosses based on the number of monsters you've killed. But that last line that says modifiers to the final map boss in each map also apply to the summon bosses. So destructive play in conjunction with shaping the world can give you an additional chance for maps to drop. Now, destructive play is more meant, it's at the top of the tree. The nodes preceding it have to do with like Maven witnessing and stuff like that. It's more intended to be an end game mechanic, but if we're struggling with map sustain, destructive play needs to be something that we can kind of consider if we want additional map sustain. Destructive play, by the way, also plays really well with chittering champions, additional scarab chance. So yeah, I would maybe consider some of these in the very beginning, but at the very least, go for this Kurak map mission chance. I even go out of my way to grab some of these ones. I actually like this node a lot, this planar tactician. It gives you comprehensive scouting reports, and anybody who's done the challenge hunting and tried to get like the Doriani's map or whatever, some really annoying unique maps can be found through these comprehensive scouting reports. And the nodes preceding them are all the Kurak mission chance. So try and get as much Kurak mission chance as you can, as well as taking all the map sustain nodes. And this is kind of what I would consider like the basics for map sustain. Let me go in game real quick to give you guys a little bit of scouting report, I guess, tech, and then also kind of remind you guys how it works. So here we see Kurak shop. And basically, I can run any mission. I actually don't even need to run the mission. I just open the map. So let's take note of the maps that are here, right? So Stagnation, Maze, Basilica. I'm going to open a mission. I don't even have to run it. Just by virtue of the portal's opening here, it changes his shop. So now it's offering me, oh, look at this, random stuff. It can offer you, I think, up to your highest map tier ran +3. It can also offer you like an 8 Chaos Cortex map. That happened to me last league, which was pretty cool. It can offer you Guardian maps, things like that. So, your Kurak missions are valuable. They'll be valuable all league. You can always just burn them. Don't let them go over to standard where I have 1,000 of them. So you should probably burn them. Also, one other piece of tech that I want to talk about is the Explorer Scouting Report. So I think everybody already kind of knows about the tech where you can leave one map uncompleted and then maybe get a full stack of div cards for that map, right? And you can get a early Chains That Bind, or maybe you're going to go for the Glory and go for like a full stack of Apothecaries. It is weighted towards the more common cards. Anyways, that's not the tech that I want to talk about. The tech that I want to talk about, I can't really show you because I'm in standard and I have all my maps completed. But basically, early on in a league, if you have just all of your white maps done, what you can do is you can use the same one, the Explorer Scouting Report, and what it'll do is it'll change. It'll try and look for an uncompleted white map in your white Kirac missions, but it won't find one. And what it can do is give you a white version of a tier 16 map, or a tier 14 or a 13 or something. What you can do then is then when you're entering red maps, normally when you're just entering red maps, it'll show you a bunch of like tier 11s and 12s. But because you've completed a map, you won't have the bonus for it because it has to be corrupted and rare or whatever. But you'll have this map. Imagine like I didn't do temple. Temple would be like, it would look like this, but it wouldn't have the bonus completion on it. And now I could see temple inside of my red Iraq missions and kind of like leapfrog your atlas in a certain way. So I don't see very many people talking about that tech, but yeah, use these explorers scouting reports if you're trying to like really rush progression. I think completing your map tier by tier is just kind of the most efficient thing to do in general. I kind of talk about the tier by tier method in my written document, but something that you could do to kind of leapfrog progression. Okay, let's get back into these are some of the nodes that I think you should be taking. I do want to talk about, and this is probably the title of my video, is do not click Unwavering Vision. I actually think that this is a bit of a noob trap. I know it's tempting to get 20 Atlas passive skill points. It seems like a lot. Like, oh man, I just completed 20 maps for free or whatever. Scarabs not being found in your map is a big deal. Scarabs are basically, they got rid of sextants, so now they are your sextants and they're your scarabs. And some of them are very valuable. And even the non-valuable ones, you can 3-to-1 into a veiled scarab, which gives you kind of another lottery chance at getting a scarab that you do want. Scarabs will be a large part of the economy, so do not click this node unless you know what you're doing. I think there might be some niche cases where you take it very early and then maybe you save up 20 points and then unspec that. But my advice is instead of taking the 20 points to go up here and click this, why don't you just stay down here and click the actual good nodes that you want? And then as you progress your atlas, click valuable nodes, right? So the reason I actually haven't been making too many atlas strategy videos is I think they've done a great job on the atlas. There's basically no wrong way to progress your atlas. There's no noob traps or whatever, but I actually think this one is the first one in a long time that is a bit of a noob trap. So yeah, I just wouldn't click on that. Just that's my PSA, my warning to you guys. The next stuff I wanted to get into was kind of my atlas trees, kind of how I'm going about it. You know, some of the this one is what I would call a cheese tree. So one thing that we don't know about the upcoming, we know we're getting multiple atlas trees, but we don't know when we're going to unlock them. So my first tree, what I was thinking is I would do like a cheese tree that would help me like cheese progression on like a suboptimal build. And so I take a lot of temporary character power. This is not new technology, but packed with energy with 100% Nico chance. Some people even use Nico missions or Nico scarabs in the past. Now you could just get it from the tree. But really lean into the temporary character power, right? I could take additional shrines. I could take I'll have Einhar follow me around, and he does 1,000% more damage, and he remains after I capture the last beast. You could go even further. You could have Huck come into your map and equip Huck with like a haste or a rogue trinket or whatever. And so this is kind of a way to get a lot of temporary power and just kind of cheese your atlas, and then hopefully by the time you're finishing your cheese tree, you've unlocked kind of a second tree, and that would be the one that you kind of start your Alkengo strategy or maybe your Scarab strategy on. That's kind of what my plan is I'm going to do my cheese tree and then go into an Alkengo tree and then into a more end game like Scarab focused tree. At some point when I get enough unmaking orbs, I'll unmake all of my cheese tree and then turn it into a secondary, maybe a bossing, leaning into all of these remnants of the past or whatever. If you're going to be taking this Einhar stuff, you should be taking maybe more Einhar chance. Maybe it's worth it to grab. grab some of these on the side. But yeah, anyways, this cheese tree is kind of, I talk about the pros and cons of it in my written document. If you're very interested in it, you can look at that. So this is kind of my more personal. Like I said, once we unlock that second Atlas passive tree, this is something that I would do. And I don't know how valuable this is because the mechanics that you like will be kind of different from the mechanics that I like, right? So this particular one, I'm leaning into Expedition in June. I really like these. You know, I like to craft all my own gear, so I'm going to be doing June for that. I'm doing Expedition, so I could get Rog. Danig is actually just strictly better than Rog, so I go for Danig. I'm pretty interested in maybe doing blue altars and then combining that with, some of these scarab nodes. Late game, I might do, once I have all my scarabs, do big map effect, twist of fate, who knows. This is just another sample Alkengo tree that leans into some of the delve cheese while also doing red altars this time instead of blue altars, and then strong boxes. So all these sample trees are in my document, and I will be cooking up some more Atlas strategies kind of on stream later today. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential with this Atlas. One thing I do want to mention is that I'm taking some of these blocking nodes, and kind of a PSA here. If you didn't know, these blocking nodes also block scarabs. So that's something new this patch, is that it will block scarabs of the type. And so there is a little bit of this concept of addition by subtraction by blocking even maybe some good scarabs. Like I actually think the delirium ones are okay, but maybe by blocking these, I get to see the scarabs that I want more frequently. And even, I can't actually block torment, and I think these are bad, but by blocking, more mechanics, these stacks of torment scarabs will get up higher, and then I could 3-to-1 them easier or whatever. There's like 118 different scarabs, I believe. And so by blocking out, 4 or 5, times 9 or whatever at a time, you're going to be seeing the scarabs that you want more frequently. And I think there's some really cool stuff you can do. I think, I'll just go ahead and say what I think the objectively best ones are. I think cartography, divination cards, beyond, those are some of the big winners. Reliquary kind of lost a bit. It depends on if you're doing group or if you're doing solo play. I think the ritual ones are objectively bad. I would block the hell out of that one early. I think Legion's quite good. I think this last one's going to be turbo broken. We actually don't know how rare some of these are. These horn scarabs are also very absurd, especially this one, the bloodlines. Anyways, yeah, we don't know exactly the rarity and frequency. We don't know what preferring more rare scarabs actually means, right? Like this remarkable relics. Definitely just hover over some of these scarab nodes. Amplified artifacts looks very strong. You could also just dictate, if I think cartography is strong, then I should click this one, right? Just if I need map sustain, don't be afraid to click those Cardo Scarab chances. So that's kind of it for my sample trees. Like I said, am going to be streaming later today and trying to cook up some Atlas strategies. Depending on when you're watching this video, feel free to stop by on Twitch and ask me some questions there. Feel free to leave some questions in the comments below. That's all I really had for this video. Good luck in the upcoming Necropolis League, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks for stopping by.